Hey everyone, Nick here and welcome back to GamerTube, and welcome back to our Little Nightmares Character Concepts series. So in today's video, we'll be going into the character, the Exterminator. So we've actually had a lot of viewers asking for an Exterminator-like character, so we thought we'd do our own take on it. So we'll be going into their location, their gameplay mechanics, and all that good stuff as well. Also, like always, a very big thank you to Jafer over on Twitter for designing today's character. And as always guys, we will just state that these are just a couple of our own ideas, nothing really set in concrete, nor do we expect Tarsier or Bandai Namco to do anything with these ideas. So typically these are just some cool, creepy ideas that we can share and we hope you enjoy. And lastly, before we start today's video, if you could please consider leaving a like, commenting and subscribing as it helps out a lot and it's greatly appreciated. Alrighty, let's get into the Exterminator. So for the location of this character concept, we arrive at the Pale City Orphanage. The building is silent. There's no laughter of children, no happy parents seeking out a new family member, just the cold and empty silence. We then see the main character, the Trouble Child. The Trouble Child never got along with any of the other orphans. They would always be starting fights with the other children and would get into trouble with the caretakers. The caretakers had no choice but to lock the Trouble Child in a separate room away from the other children. But no one ever understood the poor Trouble Child. The caretakers have long left this orphanage, leaving the few children left to fend for themselves. Something happened to the caretakers. They were no longer themselves. It all happened when the television started to play that strange broadcast. Ever since then, the Trouble Child stays in their confined room. Lucky for them, they still have someone who cares for them. A kind young child who makes sure they always have some food and water. Unfortunately, they can't open this door as the strange caretakers took the key with them. One day, the Trouble Child hears what sounds to be a large truck pull up outside the orphanage. They climb over to the dirty window in their room to get a better look. They see a large truck with lots of strange symbols on the side. The child doesn't know what any of these markings mean. As they watch, they see a large figure exit the truck. They stop to look at a piece of paper in their hand and then walk towards the building. A few hours go by and the child hears nothing. Then all of a sudden they hear a loud bang on their door. They see that the kind child has broken into the door with an old fire axe. They appear to be wearing an old piece of cloth around their mouth and nose, but why? The kind child grabs their hand and hurries them out of the room. As they run through all the rooms, they come across the main hallway of the orphanage. It appears that all the other children have vanished. The two children see a large cloud of vapour at the end of the hallway. Thick green clouds of fog slowly crawl down the halls towards them. Out of the thick fog emerges a shadowy character. This character is revealed to be the Exterminator. A frightening character dressed in a dark chemical hazmat suit. They also have a sinister looking gas mask and an old metal poison sprayer on their back. In their hand is a long, deadly sprayer nozzle that emits a fatal green mist. The children run down to another corridor to evade the deadly masked character. As they run down the corridor, the dense green fog slowly follows behind them. The two children come across an air vent and quickly decide to jump inside to escape this deadly fog and this menacing exterminator. The two children appear to be safe for now. As they venture through the air vents, they can hear a strange sound. As they look behind them, they see a large deadly mechanical device making its way through the vents behind them. The Exterminator is trying to force the children out of the vents with one of their deadly pest control devices. The children quickly try to escape the deadly device as it tries to viciously grab them and pull them back through the vent into the hands of the Exterminator. In this gameplay segment, the player would have to quickly navigate their way through the vents without being grabbed by the metal arm. They finally get to the end of the vent as the kind child desperately tries to open the panel. The metal arm approaches closer and closer, and as the troubled child ducks in fear, the metal arm suddenly stops. It seems that the metal arm has extended as far as it can. With much frustration, the Exterminator retracts the metal arm and tries to catch them on the other side. As the children manage to push open the vent, they then find themselves in the next area. They open up the vent and find themselves in the kitchen. This is where the remaining children of the orphanage used to search for what was left of the food after the caretakers left. Empty cans litter the floor as they walk through and try to find a way out of this kitchen area. They see an old window above the shelves and they decide to climb up and try to make their way to the outside. The kind child opens the window and steps through. As they do, 2 cage doors come slamming down. The exterminator has set up a trap for the children to walk right into. The exterminator grabs the cage, and just as the troubled child goes to reach for them, the exterminator sprays a large green cloud of poison through the window. The troubled child has no choice but to leave them behind as to try and avoid the green deadly fog. They run back through the kitchen and into the old adoption area. This area has been unused for quite some time. They can't remember a time when anybody ever came to adopt any of the children. As they walk through this area, they see a number of deadly traps laid out all over the floor. In this gameplay segment, the player would have to spring the deadly traps that the exterminator has laid out. The child could grab old toys and wooden blocks and throw them at these traps. They need to get to the door on the other side of the room. As they traverse through all the traps, they finally reach the door. As they open it, they now come to the caretaker's living quarters. An old room with beds, a couch, and an old television set. Across the other side of the room, there's a door that leads outside. As they approach the door, all of a sudden the exterminator appears behind them. This time, the exterminator brought an even deadlier poison than the last one. Thick clouds of purple fog surround the exterminator as they spray the deadly poison into the room. The purple fog starts to corrode away the furniture as it seeps in, covering everything it touches. The child hasn't got time to open the door before they get enveloped in the highly corrosive, deadly poison. They see a hole in the wall and run straight towards it. They quickly squeeze through the hole as the purple fog seeps in after them. The exterminator places the sprayer into the wall and pumps it with the extremely strong poison. In this gameplay segment, the child would have to quickly navigate through the insides of the wall whilst also avoiding the purple poison that's creeping up behind them. As the purple fog creeps up behind them, the walls start to erode and crumble away. The child desperately tries to escape by climbing over obstacles and dodging rusty nails within the wall. They see before them another hole in the wall. They quickly escape through the hole as all the purple poison pours out behind them and quickly rots the wall away. The troubled child now finds themselves in the sleeping quarters of all the orphans. All the beds are empty and there appears to be no one left. As they walk past the empty beds, they look up at a photo on the wall. The troubled child remembers taking this photo. They see themselves and all the other children alongside the caretakers. These were the last remaining children of the orphanage. These were the children nobody wanted. They stare at the photo a little longer and then they exit the room and make their way to the front doors of the orphanage. As they approach the front doors, they see the exterminator blocking the way. They seem angry and frustrated that this troublesome child is still alive. The exterminator stares at the child and the child stares back. The exterminator quickly readies their sprayer and pulls the trigger, but nothing comes out. There's not a drop of poison left in their tank. Whilst the exterminator is distracted with the empty sprayer, the troubled child quickly runs through their legs and exits through the front door. The large character quickly turns around and follows them. As the child passes the exterminator's truck, they see the kind child still locked up in the cage. The troubled child decides to save the only person that's ever cared for them. They quickly climb up on the truck and try to free their friend. Unfortunately, the cage is locked with a large padlock. The troubled child notices 3 large tanks filled with different poisons. They can see the exterminator checking for the child in the bushes in the opposite direction. It's only a matter of time before they return back to the truck to refill their sprayer. In this gameplay segment, the troubled child would have to pull the levers on the 3 tanks. They need to activate them all in the right sequence in order to mix them all up and release a small amount of highly concentrated poison at the lock, which would cause it to rapidly rust and break off. If the player takes too long, the exterminator will notice them and rush over and grab them. Or if they rush and get the wrong mixture, they could raise the pressure of the tanks, causing an explosion of poison vapor. After they've correctly mixed all the poison, the Trouble Child opens up the valve ever so slightly and lets out a burst of the new deadly red poison. The lock quickly rusts and falls off. Just as the Trouble Child opens the door and frees them from their cage, they notice the exterminator is right behind them. Just as they go to grab the two children, they notice the tanks of poison rumbling in an unstable manner. All of a sudden, the tanks explode, pushing the children off the truck and enveloping the exterminator in a cloud of deadly poisonous gas. The exterminator falls to their knees as they're surrounded by poison. The exterminator gasps for air when all of a sudden they stop moving altogether. The two children look at their home that's now been completely fumigated with zero chance of ever being safe to live in again. They walk off into the distance in search of the other children, wondering where they've all ended up, hoping they were all safe. Alrighty everyone, that's all we have for today's video. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please consider leaving a like, commenting and subscribing, as it helps out a lot and is greatly appreciated. Also, like always, let us know down in the comment section down below what you thought of the exterminator and what you'd like to see going forward. Alrighty everyone, well until the next video, I'll catch you later, bye.